Hello everyone, Edain here, and welcome back to the Edain mod, where today we will be going over the faction guide for Isengard, which was the most requested of the latest poll by quite a bit actually. It's about 42%ish by about 100 votes. Now, Isengard is probably a faction I have the least experience with out of every faction, but also I just kind of know how they operate, how to play as them, how to beat them with the AI, how to beat an AI using them, because they are very narrow-minded in their approach. In that, in the early game you go for this, late game you go for that, so on and so forth, and the AI is unfortunately stuck in that exact same mentality because of what you start with. But we'll get into most of that later on. So firstly, we're going to be going over the core mechanics, then strengths and weaknesses, then how I prefer to play them, and then how to best the AI using them. So let's begin. Isengard's core mechanics are actually quite simple things. It's your economy for the first thing. Your furnaces and your mine shafts both discount very important things to your late game roster. Your heavy Urukai, so all of your Urukai here, not including the hunters, and your furnaces, once they hit level 3, can discount upgrades up to 50%. Now, in the past, I would always go with mine shafts. Recently, I've been going for furnaces a lot more. Furnaces are way more important, in my opinion, for that discount on the upgrades. The units are fine, but all in all, I have done the math, and you do save more money by discounting upgrades more than you do on discounting the units. At least if you get to that point. Obviously, you can also build mine shafts in settlements. You can't do that with furnaces. So that also gives me another bias as to why you should build furnaces in the base and mine shafts outside the base. You've also got the lumber mill, one of the only two factions with lumber mills. But on top of that, you've got a few powers that give you big resource boosts. You've got the ruthless exploitation to use on any... oh, that place has already been absolutely decimated. That was quick. I built a few lumber mills there so I could show about the devastation, and wow, they just cleared it instantly. You can see all the labourers everywhere. It's hilarious. They're all going to the timber yard now. But you've got ruthless exploitation that makes a timber yard, which produces massive economy, but also weakens the economy of those around you, or around it. Devastation to just take trees out of the game and give you money. In vanilla BFME 2, in a few patches, they did make it so there's also stun in an area to give it more versatility. They took that back out for Edain. And then lastly, there's industry. That just gives a resource building, any resource building, plus 300 resource production, except for a stoneworker. Even when you try to use it right next to another resource building, it doesn't work, doesn't need to. But yeah, you've definitely got more of and also more resource value. Bill Fernie with his cut purse, if you ever want to use that. The Wildmen of Dunland, whenever they attack a building, gives you resources. Wolfguard can make it so when the Wildmen kill anyone, they have a scavenger effect of just gathering resources. Isengard has more ways of gaining resources, having a economy value than any other faction. And it's necessary because you do need to spend probably more than nearly every other faction, barring maybe like Imladris. I was about to say Isengard. Then you've got the Machinery of War, which used to be very interesting, very unique in the beginning when it was just these four factions: Gondor, Rohan, Isengard, Mordor. They were the only faction that would always keep the level of their buildings. But then Imladris, Lothlorien, the Dwarves, they all just got it through various ways. Some other factions as well, obviously. They all got various ways of just having permanent level 3 military buildings, which Isengard no longer had the uniqueness about it. The only unique thing about it is you upgrade them through the military buildings themselves. You upgrade one, it does it for all three of them. The Uruk Pit, the Great Siege Works, and the Wild Pit. The Clan Steading is a different thing altogether. That comes from the just by recruiting more Wildmen, same as like Mordor. And then lastly, there's the Wizard Tower. You can put Saruman on his perch. I chose Isengard just to give an extreme example of the Wizard Tower. And then he can use a variation of some of his abilities, like his Thunderbolt being now a much larger AoE constantly striking around him. His Power Speech, instead of going from extra levels for units, it's faster recruit speed for units. And his Cunning Words can be used to just make them attack each other, including heroes, not just gaining control of them for a small amount of time. Fireball and Wizard Blast are pretty much the same. And then obviously Saruman is also a bit unique in the fact he has 2 different forms of the ring. But 3 technically, if you want to think about that Shire Easter egg, but we're not going to go into the Shire Easter egg. But you can go between the Blessed and the Cursed. He either utilizes lightning and the heavens, or fire and the earth. And those are the main mechanics of Isengard. It's not as like big and flashy as like some of the other factions I've already shown off. Like when Mordor had Sauron, obviously, is the big thing. But Isengard has a lot of their power comes in their units. Their heroes are kind of less important to them, which we'll talk about in strengths and weaknesses. So strengths, as I've already kind of said with their core mechanic, very strong economy, especially if you have the trees to harvest with the lumber mills, because lumber mills also give a discount to your buildings if you do get them on top of your war machines, apparently. Although, who is actually recruiting these and caring if they're cheaper or not? I don't. And you have probably the most powerful late game armies. As I said again, your power comes from your armies. Your Uruk-hai can instantly level up to level 5 thanks to the Uruk Captain. If you purchase that, they can get these shield bearers on any of the 3 heavy Uruk-hai, the crossbowman, swordsman, or pikeman. And you also have a pseudo-elite, pseudo-heroic unit in the Orc Hunters to begin with, which can go all the way up to level 10 and can even heal on kill if they actually get to level 5, which is very hard to do, but they can go all the way up to level 10 because that's why they're pseudo-heroic. That and they have a limit. However, they have the weakest early game by a pretty hefty margin. In the early game, all you can make are 4 units of Orc Hunters, Warg Riders, and all of... Well, no. You can make 2 siege units. This requires... Oh, no. That says level 1. I might be wrong on that. That might be a typo. I think that's meant to be level 2. You can get Ballista. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I didn't pay attention when I got the building. But yeah, you're limited to just getting Wildman, basically, in your early game, which isn't a bad thing. They have buffed the Wildman with the power of the Gabasto. You can make it so they deal more damage against buildings, they steal additional resources with attacking buildings, or they get more experience. And that is unique to each individual Gabasto, which then also offers more things to the Wildman of Dunland. It turns a early tier pseudo-trashy units, similar to Orcs, and makes them actually really good with things like these Smelters of Angrenost. You can get them heavy armor without needing to get Wolfguard to level 10. Although, obviously, back then it was level 10, he would give every Dunland unit heavy armor. So, you're more incentivized on spending your resources again, which is fine because this faction is very good with their resources. And, like what I said about with Dwarves and Angmar, Axe Throwers are amazing. I don't know what they're attacking. They're trying to attack Gollum, aren't they? Leave Gollum alone. The Axe Throwers are amazing, and you can give them torches for 200 resources. You don't even need to buy an upgrade for that. That just comes as you can get them. You can give them bonus damage on top of their already very high slash damage. Wildman Axe Throwers, I'd say, are honestly better than Crossbowmen. Only because the Steel Bolt's only good against heavy armoured troops, and if you're fighting mostly lightly armoured like Orcs, or even Elves from Lothlorien, these Wildmen are going to do way more damage than these crossbows could ever dream of doing. Also, pierce damage turns, instead of having like extra elemental damage, they get what's called ranged cavalry damage, which basically means they deal bonus damage to units with armor. Which is, I understand the appeal, but so many AI don't use these. So unless you're fighting as a player that knows how to upgrade their troops, don't get the crossbows, get the axe throwers. Axe throwers will beat most factions compared to crossbows. You also have as I'm going back there, a generally weaker hero roster. I'm going to kill Gollum in a minute. You've got Bill Fernie, whose only two good abilities is to see the closest nearby hero, which if the hero is nearby, that's pointless. Because Disguise does nothing against the AI. All you're doing is throwing him in to give a little bit of vision. You already have a vision power. You can get a second vision power from the Wizard Tower. If, you know, it was a regular Wizard Tower, not this one. Target a building and it does less. Target a building and it does less. You have to get close enough to the building, and if his Bill Fernie's on his own, he's probably going to die because cavalry exists. And the AI are very persistent. And then his cut burst ability does make him a competent fighter, and also steals resources. That's all he's good for. Grima, I'll admit, I disrespected him a bit. I viewed him mostly as a hero killer. Where is he? I'm gonna kill him. Where is Gollum? I can't see him. There he is. I don't care if I destroyed a bunch of them. I just want to not have to hear, "Oh, watch out, Gollum's here," anymore. Grima, I viewed him more as a hero killer, but honestly, his abilities of the ability Backstab is very misleading. It's not even his best ability anymore. His Venomous Words and Influence of Despair are the two main abilities. And if you ever get Sabotage, you can just kind of run into the enemy base, but you've also got things that do that as well. Ugluk is still my favourite of the two Uruk heroes. Healing, movement speed boost, survivability, and can even summon, compared to swap between sword and bow. Swap between having a sword or bow ability, cripple or extra damage. Bonus damage for all Urukai, I admit, is good. But then the hunt, I've never really appreciated it, and I probably never will, because I always see the enemy AI just throw their heroes into the fray, so the hunt doesn't really get much value. Then you have Shaku, who I'll admit, he's also very good, being able to reset some of the Howl abilities and having Devour. It's just that, all in all, they all do generally weaker things than I know other factions have the same capabilities for. It does feel like some of these heroes could do with a little bit of a buff here and there. Namely, Bill Fernie, Lurtz, and honestly, Grima could do with getting rid of Backstab and giving him something else. I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like Grima just got spoiled rotten with... oh my god. Grima got spoiled rotten with the Edain Unchained mod, because he got so many buffs, just being able to summon troops. Anyway, let's get into how I prefer to play them. I've already kind of given you the whole thing in some way or another, but let me actually go over it in more detail. So go for Wildman ASAP. Get a Wildman clan steading, preferably back in the back of your base, where it's safe. So for example, if I was here, if there was a settlement here, I'd build that as a Wildman lair, and I wouldn't build it up in the front because I want to make sure it's protected. If I lose that very early on, then all I can make are basic Urukai, unless I've already gotten tier 2 Uruk Pit, which in like the first 5-10 minutes of the game, you shouldn't do. You should be focusing instead on your economy, going for the workers' tools and the settlers' tools. Boost that economy. You need it desperately. It is why your two tier 2 powers are both resource oriented. One just destroys a bunch of trees, which is better when it's near an enemy base, which you can view with Vision of Palantir. Industry is very good at giving one building massive resource generation on top of the Ruthless Exploitation, which you can use in conjunction with it to give massive resources. I wish I had a labourer over here that could prove that, but it's apparently not here. They're all in the base now. So that's going to have to wait another time. You've got a lot going for you in the late game. In the early game, you've got to work with the very little you've got. Your resources are limited. You want to be fighting as little as possible. Fight only on your terms. Play defensive. Play afraid, because that is how you have to play. Wait until you start getting Urukai with upgrades, and then think about getting the steel workers. When it comes to early outposts, or when it comes to outposts in general, early game, if you can protect the outpost, get the Gatherstone. Not only does it boost your Wildmen, which in the early game are going to be your bread and butter, you need at least 1, maybe even 2 clan steppings. If you do get the Banners of Wolf, I think, oh no, March of the Clans, you can boost the damage of all of your Wildmen on the map, as long as the Gatherstone is on the field. You also get more protection around the Gatherstone. If, however, you're building a more frontline outpost, don't build bunch of defenses like I've done here. Instead, go for a bunch of resources. Get as much money out of the land, drain the land as much as possible with your resource generation, because you'll find it's gone very quickly. The trees, you can already see, the map has been mostly cleared of all trees. And it reminds me, with Lumber Mills, it feels very similar to other RTS games. Like, my only other RTS game experience is StarCraft. And with certain areas, minerals will eventually just run out, and then you have to start expanding elsewhere. Thankfully, Battlefield Earth is very different in that just resource buildings generate resources a lot overall. Especially if you go for this building, the work tent, which gets better for every single production, every single research you have produced. So, banner carriers, forged blades, heavy armor, steel bolts, or captains. At the beginning, this work tent generates less, but once you have once you've got all these research upgrades produced, that was 47 a tick. Let me have a look at this mineshaft here. That's 34. That's 13 more resources per tick, which is honestly better than the mineshafts and what little discount it gives for your Urukai. So early game, if you've not been able to get the resources, but you want to go Urukai, then go mineshafts. Then afterwards, you can start thinking about going for work tents if you're even that far along in the game. Yeah, early on, definitely just focus more on the Wildman. The Wildman can take you far. I've won games with just Wildman, and it's insane how good these are. The fact that Wolfguard can turn them into pikemen helps you to maintain your early game spread. Especially if, like, for example, I wanted to... Oh, that killed them all. I didn't want to kill them all. Oh no, my units mostly... I did it again. Make more Wildmen. like what I talked about with Theoden while he's corrupted, low peasant units can be turned into full units of traitors. Low entity units of Wildmen can be turned into full units of Dunlanding pikemen. This small, cheesy exploit is one of the best things in this game for just keeping yourself in the game for as long as possible. Now, let me try not to kill all of them this time. Oh no, I've only got 3 Wildmen left. Let me turn these 3 Wildmen into a full unit of... Well, I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10... 15. There's 15 there, so 15 Wildmen. That just generated 12 new entities and made them defensive against cavalry. Early game, you have got the tools now, better than you had before. It's still not great. They're still not your best. They're not going to last for long against certain factions, for sure. Imladris, Lothlorien, they will decimate these poor little munchkins. They're adorable and all with their pot bellies, but you'll eventually need to dedicate to your Urukai, and it's worth it. Again, in the late game, you have one of the strongest army compositions in the game of the straight up level 5 units, immunity to fear. There's few things that are going to make them run away or just run out of formation. You can rely on your heroes less because your army does just goes the extra mile. Obviously, as I said before, you can still consider getting Dunlanding axe throwers for your ranged units, because crossbowmen, they are decent, but they are not as good as axe throwers in my opinion. Although, if you do, in the late game, go for an outpost, build the steel workers, for sure. No reason not to, because it can also generate your research upgrade. So if you want to, you can then get rid of the armory in your base. You'll still be able to purchase the upgrades because you have the steel workers, and you can instead get another furnace. Discount the upgrades even more, and then with an extra 3,000 resources, you can increase the value of heavy armor, forged blades, and steel bolts for all of your Urukai. It's insane how much these units can be buffed. You also have in the late game these shield bearers, which I talk very little about. These guys are insane. When combined with any other Uruk battalion to protect them, any cavalry charging them will be slowed twice as quickly and make them nearly immune to long-ranged attacks, which is really good. It means that your Uruk units that you have, well, you can't no longer put in melee mode, but your crossbows could be protected from dealing with cavalry charges or getting shot a lot, because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I think, or maybe just in a comment. Oh yeah, no, it wasn't a comment about the spear throwers because I said they were trash. That ranged units attack enemies randomly. Melee units will attack randomly, but the amount of targets they have are reduced. Let's just put these two guys together. This is now a 20 entity unit. An archer unit of 15 entities shoots 15 arrows, and let's say they all hit the shield bearers, which are all nearly immune to those arrows. These entities behind them that aren't immune to those arrows are safe to fight however they wish. However, you could also have it like they'll all attack the back 5 and then they all kill the back 5. But, you know, that's kind of how archers go. It's all random. You can't determine which entity in a battalion the AI archers will hit, which is why Thrall Masters are normally quite safe because they're all the way in the back. Same with the Overseers. But yeah, that's everything for how I play Isengard. Dun endings can last to the late game, but if you're struggling, you can go full Urukai and your economy will just be soaring. You will have very little problems with your economy if you manage it early enough. Get those upgrades, get those tier 3 buildings, because tier 3 buildings are very, very valuable to you if they give you a 50% upgrade discount. On top of just everything else being really bloody good. Lumber Mills, early game again. Deplete the forest. And if you can't deplete the forest, use Devastation. There's also maps that don't have forests, in which case Lumber Mills suck, and that is unfortunate for you. It's normally in the underground Dwarven mine maps. But now we come to the last bit on how to beat the Isengard AI. In the past, I have had a few people saying, oh, I've really struggled playing against Isengard AI. They just bring out all their best stuff really early. And to that, I say the way of beating the Isengard AI is actually quite simple. It's just learn all their timings. It's the same with all the AI, honestly. But Isengard, as I said, is very narrow-minded. They can't do much with the early game. They can only make Orc Hunters, Wild Riders, and some siege units, which they will spam battering rams. They are the only AI faction that actually spams siege, and it's very disgusting on their castle starts how much siege they can have in like the first 5 minutes. But it's because they just don't have anything else to build. They will build some of their heroes, watch them die. If they don't have a clan steading, they'll have to rush to get their Urukai. But you'll see they do use the clan settings quite well, and they use it often, even throughout the entire game. They will just do that. However, as I said, they make Wild Riders quite often. In fact, they're one of the few factions you can guarantee they will have cavalry in the first 5 minutes of the game. You need pikemen against Isengard. Their hunters can be terrifying because of how strong they are compared to some other tier 1 units that some other factions start with. The only other exception being like it used to be Blade Masters, is now the Wandering Company for Enlargers. But yeah, Isengard probably has the strongest early game units, which doesn't mean anything, honestly. All that means is that these guys are more competent at dealing with early layers, wildmen, goblins, orcs, but not wargs, not trolls. Even with their like hunting arrow ability, they're not killing off like 2 wargs or 1 troll and then taking out that lair. Don't try it. Focus on low value layers, please. Just in general. But yeah, expect wargs early game and a lot of siege. And also you'll see explosive mines. And every time you see an explosive mine being placed, not while they're on the field, but actually no, that's a lie. It's both. So if you see the explosive mines, attack them as quickly as possible. The AI will focus trying to plant the mine so that they can have their berserkers. Not these berserkers in particular, but just berserkers in these berserkers. They will give these berserkers their torches, normally 5 of them in total, along with 3 mines. They will run up to that mine and they'll just explode it. Even if they build the building that they're so imagine this is next to a settlement. Imagine that mine is next to a settlement, but the settlement is about to be destroyed. And then the AI takes that settlement. They will still blow up that settlement, regardless of who owns it, because the AI is silly. They already have decided the Berserker is going to be destroying that mine, and so it will do it. But if you attack the mines, they will stop prematurely, and then they'll still explode anyway. So keep that in mind. Also, keep far away from mines. Very, very, very dangerous. Don't do that. But yeah, if you let the Isengard factions get to late game, you are going to struggle, because their late game units, as I've already said, are very good. And AI typically don't, AI in general, don't typically keep making more heroes. They eventually just stop making heroes because they realise it's a waste of time for them to keep spending all those resources. Normally they also don't have them, but they'll spend it more on their armies. And that's why I said Isengard has very strong armies, but not as strong heroes, because honestly, Isengard late game is terrifying. It's supposed to be terrifying, but it's the army that's the terrifying factor. The army and their powers. The heroes are the least problematic thing about them, except for like Sharku, because his attack speed is ridiculous. But barring Sharku, all the other heroes are really low threat enemies. Focus their army down first. I normally say focus the heroes down. Do a bait, have them attack a hero or a unit, and then run that unit or hero away, and then run your rest of your army into those heroes, which will be attacking, will be trying to chase, and then will just die. With Isengard, don't worry too much about that. Focus on destroying the army first, and always be prepared for cavalry, because they can spawn cavalry. Very few army factions can just spawn cavalry like that. It's terrifying when you don't prepare for the traitors of Rohan.
You have no power here.
Because yeah, that is 30 entities of pseudo elite cavalry. 400 health each. I'm not sure how that compares to other cavalry, honestly. In fact, no, I can compare it now. 330 compared to Wild Riders, which are 400 base. That is the same amount as Rohirrim on their at base, I think. So yeah, these guys are still very strong. As a tier 3 power that only costs a total of 5 if you get them. Or if the AI gets them, which they always do. They will always spawn that. When you hear Theoden say you have no power here, pray you have some pikemen, otherwise your army is gone. Because that is how strong they are. But yeah, early game Isengard is just all about spamming, and it's all about, well, yeah, it's all about them spamming siege, and then just getting into the late game. Their early game is honestly quite pathetic, which is why most games against Isengard that I play does not last very long. Because I know their late game is terrifying, so I try to end it as soon as possible. But I'm also used to seeing that a lot, and you can see it may not have done as much damage to these as you might think, but that's because of how far away they were. The mines do way more damage the closer they are to the entity, which is why you'll always see the AI hug the mine up to the buildings they're up against. But yeah, that is everything for today's faction guide. Honestly, Isengard is a faction that has remained very vanilla throughout its entire life cycle, and I do think it needs a few more things to get it in line with other factions. It's not a bad faction anymore. I don't hate it as much as I did before, thanks to the changes with the Gaverstone. But then I saw the changes that Unchained did, and then I realised there's still so much potential for this faction to be even better. And I do hope the Edain team can give this faction more love, so they can feel even more fun to play. This is a fun faction to play, but it is not, by my determination, a faction you should play to begin with. It's not a faction you will understand to begin with because of, well, things like the 1000 faction, the 1000 resource restraint before you get all your basic troops. You do that in the early game and you screw yourself out of the late game because of how quickly you're just going to lose. But yeah, hope that all helped. The new poll for the next video will be out shortly. We've only got 4 factions left, everyone. Arnor, Belfalas, Lothlorien, and Imladris. And I'm going to kill Gollum again one more time. Where is he? Bring him to me, come on. Where is he? He's lucky I can't see. Oh, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.